Welcome back to the Lawson Farm. Today we are out here working in our small garden beside the house, and there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. I'm not planting anything today. I'm just prepping for planting. It's still just a tad bit too late right here in North Carolina, the part of North Carolina I'm in, to be planting some of this stuff. I have already planted potatoes and some corn yesterday, which y'all probably saw those videos that I've put up. But I'm not planting tomatoes and squash and cucumbers and stuff like that just yet. Maybe next weekend. We have a couple of cold days still ahead of us. Well, cold nights rather, not really cold days. And one day do we have a chance of frost, and I'm just not going to take a chance just yet. However, I want to talk about my garden here. I know you've seen a lot of stuff of me out here working around the garden, but I hadn't really talked much about the garden. So what I have is about roughly, it's almost a 60 by 60. That's rough guess there. I mean, it's actually like 58 by 58 or something like that, but we'll call it a 60 by 60. And I have worked on this soil in this garden. This garden has been here for about 10 years, but it started out as maybe right through there where the tilled dirt is, from there to about right here. When I first started, that's where the garden was. And I've just made it bigger and bigger over time. And I want to show you the difference. You can see that dirt over there where it's tilled up, how dark it is. And this will be dark once I till it up. Look out there in that far corner how red that is. That's a spot that hadn't never really been gardened either. Just that little corner there. But I wanted to mention of how what I've been doing to this garden has changed it. All of this garden used to be the worst place in the yard up here at the house. It would not grow grass. It was terrible. And as crazy as it may sound, that's why I turned it into a garden spot. Right here's a good example of what this used to look like. Can you see the color change there? This is more grayish color, like got that gray black color to it. Now it's dry right now, so you can't really see it that good. But once it gets tilled, you'll see how dark it is. And then this right here turns more of a brownish color. And this dirt is just kind of like it ain't clay. Most of the soil around here is red clay. But this dirt was more of a sandy dirt. It didn't hold water well. It didn't do anything. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't grow grass, period. So my first year of a garden here wasn't really that special of a garden. But what I've done over the years, about every year there's at least 3 dump truck loads of leaves dumped on this garden. They sit, they rot, and the next spring I spread them out and till them in. But you can kind of see right in here. See, that's the leaves where they have broke down already. Anything and everything that I can find to put in this garden, I do it. I mean, brush, I'll burn brush in this garden just to add to the soil. But look at this. Just look at how well that's held moisture down there. Keep in mind that it hadn't rained here in several weeks, really. And just look at how wet that is. I mean, but it holds moisture, but yet it still drains good. And it's perfect for the garden. So, just because your land may not be optimal land for a garden, if you've got patience to work on it and wait on it, you can turn it into something totally different. Like I said, and I just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And I've been adding to it for about 10 years now. But the garden has expanded. And I've got spots now that hadn't really had no leaves or anything added to them. Heck, I've even dumped extra mulch in here. I'm telling you, I've dumped everything in this garden. Anything that will break down and decompose, I have dumped it in this garden. But you can see right out through there just how much material is still in here that hadn't broke down. But now this doesn't really ever seem to affect my garden. Like right there's a big old wad of leaves. Never really seems to hurt it. But it's just amazing. Wish I had some pictures and stuff of how this was before I done anything to it. But it's just amazing at how it has improved over time. But anyways, what I'm doing today is I'm actually laying my rows off with my tiller. And I do this garden completely different than the garden down across the creek. The garden down across the creek, I do it all the old-fashioned way with a tractor. I lay the rows off with a tractor. I cultivate it with a tractor. And it is a bigger garden too. But this garden, I'll use this tiller. The first initial tilling of the garden gets done with the tractor. That's why I left the fence out here to where I could take it in and out and be able to get in and out of it with a tractor. However, the tractor will not be in this garden anymore after that first tilling. So if you can see here, I don't know if you can or not, but there's a ridge here, there's a ridge there, and there's a ridge there. So right now at the moment, I've got 3 rows started. And all I do is go down with the tiller, just like I was pretending there was a row here already. I would pretend there's a row here and go down just like I'm cultivating it or tilling it. And then I come right back down the other side. And that will leave a ridge right out through the middle, and that's what I use for my row. It's not a very distinct ridge, however, it's enough to know where it's at, and that kind of gives me a guide of where the tiller tines are going to run when I go to actually till the garden, you know, to till it for weeds and everything else. And on these here Murray tillers, which I think a lot of other front tine tillers are, you can take these outside tines off. And once my plants start getting big, I do that, and I'm just using the front and inside tines. Now this is a pretty new tiller. I bought it brand new last spring. I'd had a Murray tiller, an old one that was wore out before I even got it, and I used that thing for years, and it finally just gave up the ghost. The motor was going bad on it again, and I said I'm gonna treat myself to a brand new one, and I did. And these are a more expensive tiller, but however, I feel like they're worth the money. They're better than any old Troy built tiller or something you pick up from Lowe's, because I had one of those too. I did not like it. I still have it, but did not like it. But anyways, back to the garden. That's how I lay off my rows, and I'll shoot a little footage of me doing it here in just a minute. But like I said, when I do this garden different, these rows are so close together that once them plants get bigger, now of course the first month probably you have to really stay in this garden, keep the weeds out and everything else. But the rows are so close together that this garden turns into a jungle. And if you don't like snakes or anything else, you might as well not do your garden this way, because it gets snaky. However, it keeps the weeds out of your garden. Well, it's not like 100% keeping them out, because weeds still get in your garden. But it helps tremendously. And where the rows will kind of run in with each other, and that puts a layer, it's almost like a canopy over the soil. So where that soil is shaded, the weeds won't sprout and they don't come up. And also it helps the sun, it helps keep the sun from drying the soil out. And in my opinion, it works great, as long as you don't mind, you know, later on in the summer when things really start growing and they're getting big, as long as you don't mind walking through a jungle, I think it's a great way to do a garden. I mean, you'll see that later on in the year, how packed everything gets, or how crowded everything gets. But it works great for me anyways. But I just wanted to talk about the garden here for a little bit, because I know it's getting time that people are thinking about a garden. You know, and a lot of people have already got garden planted depending on what part of the country you're in. But here in North Carolina, we're just, well, in the foothills of North Carolina, we're just getting started with this stuff, and about a week or two is when we're really cranking it up. Give you a little footage here of me tilling through the garden and kind of show you exactly how I'm laying off those rows. And like I said, this works for me. If you're trying to work your garden with a tractor, this ain't gonna work. But it works for me with this tiller here. And personally, on this garden, I take a little better care of it than I do my garden across the creek. So I don't know. I like doing it with a tiller because you can be more precise with a tiller, and it's just a little, for me, it's harder work running a tiller, but yet it's easier to be careful around your plants. So I'm gonna get started with some rows here and kind of give you an idea of how it works, and that'll be it for the video. Check this out. I believe this snake had a bad morning. He just went through the tiller tines, but he looks all right. This is just a little brown garden snake. But these things, I guess it comes from where I put the leaves and stuff in here and the soil's so soft. I do see quite a bit of these, but these snakes will not hurt you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let him go. We just, when I was a kid, we used to play with these things all the time. But anyways, I'm gonna let him go because he's not a bad snake. Okay, so up here, I think the rows may be a little bit more obvious. Let's get down here and look. See, I got a row there, a row there, a row there. So just in this little small section, I've already got 3 rows on that. But all together, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 rows listed out in this garden already. And I know they look close, but trust me, this works. I've been doing it this way for 10 years now, however long I've owned the place, which is 10 years. And it works great. It does. You will see later in the season just how good this works for me. And you can tell by the way that thing was tilling through there that soil is just as soft as it can be. And typically around here, soft soil like that will usually dry out a lot faster. But I'm guessing with all that organic matter that I've put into it, it holds moisture really, really good. And you don't get no runoff because the soil is so soft it sinks in when it rains. But anyways, I just wanted to take you around my garden here and show you what we've got going on with it, and get everybody thinking about the garden. You know, if this garden's not big enough to really feed my family, however, it does give us quite a bit to eat. That's why we have the bigger garden across the creek as well. It's because, you know, like with your corn and your beans and potatoes and stuff like that, they take up a lot of room if you want to get a bunch of them. And we preserve quite a bit of food. But we also make quite a bit of food out of this garden here as well. But you know, even a person in the city with a half-acre lot of land could about make a garden this size, as long as they didn't mind giving up their yard. And if it was all left up to me, I'd just as soon have garden all around my house other than having yard. Both of them are a lot of work, but you don't get nothing out of the yard. You can get something to eat out of the garden. So, you know, that's something to think about, especially if you think you don't have no land. You don't have enough land to do anything like this. It don't take a lot of land. Now, like I said, you're not going to live off of it. You're not going to live off of it at all. But you can really supplement your food supply a whole lot if you can just break you up a little 50 by 50 spot in your yard and turn it into a garden. And I know every homeowner has scraps and waste and stuff that they throw away, their limbs, their leaves, and everything else. And you know, you should put all that stuff on your garden. Put it all on there and let it start breaking down, and you can turn a sorry piece of soil into something special within just a few years. But anyways, I just wanted to do a quick little video here today on this garden, and because we're going to be planting here soon, and I felt like I really needed to talk about the garden stuff and maybe get a few people motivated on planting some stuff. But as always, thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.